No one's born being good at all things. You become good at things through hard work. You're not a varsity athlete the first time you play a new sport. You don't hit every note the first time you sing a song. You've got to practice. The same principle applies to your schoolwork. You might have to do a math problem a few times before you get it right. You might have to read something a few times before you understand it. You definitely have to do a few drafts of a paper before it's good enough to hand in. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. I do that every day. Asking for help isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength because it shows you have the courage. To admit when you don't know something, and that then allows you to learn something new. So find an adult that you trust, a parent, a grandparent, or teacher. A coach or a counselor, and ask them to help you stay on track to meet your goals. And even when you're struggling, even when you're discouraged, and you feel like other people have given up on you. Don't ever give up on yourself, because when you give up on yourself, you give up on your country. The story of America isn't about people who quit when things got tough. It's about people who kept going, who tried harder. Who loved their country too much to do anything less than their best. It's the story of students who sat where you sit 250 years ago. And went on to wage a revolution, and they founded this nation. Young people. Students who sat where you sit 75 years ago, who overcame a depression and won a world war. Who fought for civil rights and put a man on the moon. Students who sat where you sit 20 years ago, who founded Google and Twitter and Facebook and changed the way we communicate with each other. So today, I want to ask all of you, what's your contribution going to be? What problems are you going to solve? What discoveries will you make? What will a president? Who comes here in 20 or 50 or 100 years say about what all of you did for this country? Now, your families, your teachers. And I are doing everything we can to make sure you have the education you need to answer these questions. I'm working hard to fix up your classrooms and get you the books and the equipment and the computers you need to learn. But you've got to do your part, too. So I expect all of you to get serious this year. I expect you to put your best effort into everything you do. I expect great things from each of you. So don't let us down. Don't let your family down or your country down. Most of all, don't let yourself down. Make us all proud. Thank you very much, everybody. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you. Barack Obama. Address at the Walter Cronkite Memorial Service. Delivered September 9, 2009, Lincoln Center, New York, New York. to Chip, Kathy, and Nancy, who graciously shared your father with a nation that loved him, to Walter's friends. Colleagues, protégés, and all who considered him a hero, to the men of the Intrepid, to all of you who are gathered here today. I am honored to be here to pay tribute to the life and times of the man who chronicled our time. I did not know Mr. Cronkite personally. And my regret is made more acute by the stories that have been shared here today. Nor, for that matter, did I know him any better than the tens of millions who turned to him each night in search of the answer to a simple question: what happened today? But like them and like all of you, I have benefited as a citizen from his dogged pursuit of the truth. His passionate defense of objective reporting, and his view that journalism is more than just a profession, it is a public good vital to our democracy. Even in his early career, Walter Cronkite resisted the temptation to get the story first in favor of getting it right. He wanted to get it first, but he understood the importance of getting it right. During one of his first jobs in Kansas City, Walter's program manager urged him to go on the air reporting a massive blaze, and we just heard how much he loved fires a massive blaze at City Hall that had already claimed lives. When Walter reached for the telephone, his boss asked, "What are you doing? Get on the air." Walter replied that he was calling the fire department to confirm the story. "You don't need to confirm it," the manager shouted, "my wife is watching the whole thing." Needless to say, Walter made the call, and even as the program manager took to the air himself to broadcast the unfolding tragedy. Walter discovered that it had been nothing more than a small fire that hadn't resulted in any injuries. He lost his job, but he got the story right. Walter wasn't afraid to rattle the high and the mighty, either, but he never dared to compromise his integrity. He got along with elected officials, even if they were wary of one another's motives. One politician once remarked, "Walter, my friend, you've got to believe me." Fully 85% of everything I told you today is the absolute truth. He shared a complicated relationship with presidents of both parties. Who wanted him on their side even as they were convinced that he wasn't. President Johnson called Walter after the evening news from time to voice his displeasure over a certain story. But Walter knew that if he was receiving vociferous complaints from both sides, he must be doing his job. His endless inquisitiveness about our world, I can imagine. Came from a mother who sold encyclopedias for a living. As a boy, Walter spent countless hours getting lost within their pages. Endlessly sidetracked by new and interesting entries that branched off from one another, fascinated by the world around us and how it worked. And that's the way he lived his life, with curiosity. Exploring our planet, seeking to make sense of it and explaining it to others. He went everywhere and he did everything. He raced cars and boats, he traveled everywhere from the Amazon to the Arctic, he plunged 8,000 feet below the sea. Trekked 18,000 feet up into the Himalayas, and experienced weightlessness in the upper reaches of our atmosphere, all with one mission, to make it come alive for the rest of us. And as our world began to change, he helped us understand those changes. He was forever there, reporting through World War and Cold War, marches and milestones. Scandal and success, calmly and authoritatively telling us what we needed to know. He was a voice of certainty in a world that was growing more and more uncertain. And through it all, he never lost the integrity or the plain spoken. Speaking style that he gained growing up in the heartland. He was a familiar and welcome voice that spoke to each and every one of us personally. So it may have seemed inevitable that he was named the most trusted man in America. But here's the thing, that title wasn't bestowed on him by a network. We weren't told to believe it by some advertising campaign. It was earned. It was earned. By year after year and decade after decade of painstaking effort, a commitment to fundamental values. His belief that the American people were hungry for the truth. Unvarnished and unaccompanied by theater or spectacle. He didn't believe in dumbing down. He trusted us. When he was told of this extraordinary honor that he was the most trusted man in America, he naturally downplayed it by saying the people had not polled his wife. When people of both political parties actually tried to recruit him to run for office, Without even asking for his stances on the issues, he said no to the relief of all potential opponents. And when, even a decade and a half after his retirement, he still ranked first in 7 of 8 categories for television journalists. He was disbelieving that he hadn't won the 8th category, attractiveness. Through all the events that came to define the 20th century, through all our moments of deepest hurt and brightest hope, Walter Cronkite was there, telling the story of the American age. And this is how we remember him today. But we also remember and celebrate the journalism that Walter practiced a standard of. Honesty and integrity and responsibility to which so many of you have committed your careers. It's a standard that's a little bit harder to find today. We know that this is a difficult time for journalism. Even as appetites for news and information grow, newsrooms are closing. Despite the big stories of our era, serious journalists find themselves all too often without a beat. Just as the news cycle has shrunk, so has the bottom line. And too often, we fill that void with instant commentary and celebrity gossip and the softer stories that Walter disdained. Rather than the hard news and investigative journalism he championed. What happened today, is replaced with who won today. The public debate cheapens. The public trust falters. We fail to understand our world or one another as well as we. Should, and that has real consequences in our own lives and in the life of our nation. We seem stuck with a choice between what cuts to our bottom line and what harms. us as a society. Which price is higher to pay? Which cost is harder to bear?